Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is episode 2 of Friday Friendship Tangles, and I have to begin today's video with a quick apology. I am super sorry for not posting a video the last couple of Fridays. I know that I made this big announcement that I'm going to be posting a video every Friday, and I started this new series called Friday Friendship Tangles with the hope that I'm going to be putting at least one video out there every week. But life came in the way and stuff happened and I couldn't post a video the last 2 Fridays. So yeah, super sorry about that. But I'm getting better at fitting in my YouTube content with my other commitments through my courses on Skillshare and Udemy, and the commitments that I promised through my one-on-one sessions to my students. So yeah, I'm getting there, and this week onwards I promise I'm going to be regular. So coming to today's video, we are going to be making another Zentangle inspired project, and the tangles that I have chosen for today's project are Safflower and Verdigogh, and I'm going to be putting the step outs for these tangles in the description box below. So as always, I started my project by tracing my standard 3.5-inch Zentangle tile, and I usually do the tracing in pencil so that it gives me the opportunity to change the outlines in case I need to later on, and I later on then color them with pen. And then I moved on to adding Safflower, which is a very beautiful tangle that I discovered just recently, and I haven't used it a lot, so I wanted to make a video with this particular tangle. And the inspiration that I'm going for today's project is sort of creating an under the sea illustration inspired by seaweeds, sea plants, and corals, and basically just like plant life under the sea. And Safflower seemed like an interesting tangle to pair with Verdigogh, which I've often mentioned reminds me of seaweeds and sea plants. So this is an interesting combination, and I'm going to be using it today. So after I added 3 safflowers, I moved on to adding Verdigogh. And there are many different ways of doing Verdigogh, which you can find out in the step out. But the way I like to do it, or at least for today's project, the way I decided to do it was to add the sort of rectangular leaves or rectangular stems, which are slightly warped, slightly curvy, and elongated little leaves coming out very similar to like tropical leaves. Elongated, coming out with like these cuts and facets. And I decided to do this in a slightly lighter shade of blue because I wanted these to be in the background, whereas the safflower is supposed to be on the foreground. Like that was my thought. once I had the Verdigogh in place, I moved on to using my brush pen to color the background. And in retrospect, I feel like I could have gone with a slightly lighter shade of blue. I didn't realize that the pigment is going to be so intense. And I love these brush pens, and they're absolutely wonderful to work with. These are from a brand called Ohuhu, which I recently discovered on Amazon, and they are very pocket friendly. And the brush pens are absolutely great for all kinds of projects. So, yeah, I love them. Just that I wish I'd used a slightly lighter shade on this particular project. But anyway, improvements always for the next project. So yeah, I'm probably going to recreate this project sometime later with a different color combination, or maybe with different tools, and maybe that time I'll use like a lighter background. So yeah, that. And once the background was in place, I wanted to add some white verdigogg over here. And for this, I decided to use my jelly roll pen. But I realized that my brush pen wasn't completely dried. So the paper that I'm using in this sketchbook is very receptive to water-based art supplies. So these pens are also like water-based brush pens. And so anything that I use on these sketchbooks, for example, gouache, acrylic paint, watercolors, the paper is pretty thirsty. So it takes a little bit of time for it to dry, and I didn't give it enough time to dry, which is why when I used my jelly roll on top of it, it gave this sort of scratchy effect rather than turning out to be completely white and pigmented. And that's fine, because I was eventually going for a translucent look and not a completely opaque look. But it's just that it was really hard to work with the pens over here. So I decided to leave this for the time being, and I moved on to adding gold to my safflower elements. And I decided to color each leaf in a way, or each petal in a way, where half of it is gold and the other half is white. So yeah, as you can see over here, I basically used the gold pen on all three, and then I used my white pen to brighten up the white sections. And for this, I actually moved on to using my Uniball Signo white pen, which has a slightly better nib to work with on wet surfaces. So it also works better on textured papers like the one that I'm using right now in this particular sketchbook. And I felt like this was a better pen choice rather than the white jelly rolls for this particular project. So yeah, so I added some more Verdigogh stems with this particular pen, and I also brightened up the white spots in the safflower. Next, I decided to add a border, which is again in the usual deckled edge style. So I decided to add some bumps and curves to the edges on the composition. And again, it's very reminiscent of deckled edge pages, and it has this abstract feel to it. So I used my PN pen to bring this composition to life by adding this border. And that took about a few minutes, and this step is totally optional. If you feel like you want to do your border in a separate color or in a different way, that's totally fine too. But I just wanted to play with limited colors for today's project, which is why I chose to do this in the same dark blue which I used for my safflowers. At this point, I realized that the composition needed a little bit more contrast, and so I decided to color the stems dark blue. Initially, my plan was to leave the stems white, but I wanted to add a little bit dark blue into the composition, and so I colored the stems with the same PN dark blue pen. And I also added a little bit of gold on the edges of the stems. Then I just wanted to add a little bit more gold into the composition, so I decided to add these white dots, which is one of my favorite ways to just sort of brighten up or glam up a project, so to say. So yeah, I just wanted to add these also because they remind you of little bubbles, and since I wanted this to be like an under the sea illustration where I was going for like sea plants and seaweeds, that kind of vibe, I thought that these water bubble like dots would seem seem nice in this composition. And then I also added some gold Verdigogh stems over here. Now I was going for a very translucent look and I wanted them to be sort of layered on top of each other, so I wanted them to be fused with each other, which is why I like the fact that some of the whites were still showing through and some of the blue was still showing through the gold. And plus this gold is a slightly yellowish gold, so the minute you layer it on top of a blue background, it gives this greenish tinge, because yellow and blue make green. So yeah, it has this greenish touch to it, which as you can see is very different from the gold that we have done on the Safflower, which is on a pure white background. So this is definitely more muted as against the gold Safflowers, and that's the kind of look that I was going for. I will admit, in fact, I have admitted earlier that I wasn't very happy with the blue that I chose for the background, and I think I also wanted to use a slightly different blue for the blue Verdigogh that I've done. Maybe like a slightly greenish blue, or I don't know, like maybe just do it in a different color. But yeah, I wasn't very happy with the choice that I made for the background as well as for the blue Verdigogh. So maybe when I recreate this project later on, I'm going to try and do that better. But in terms of composition and in terms of the vibe, I was kind of okay with this project. And I prefer to show my actual mistakes in these videos because I mean, some projects are hits and some projects are misses, and I want my YouTube channel to be a space where I also record like stuff that I do wrong, because it's important for us to know the honest picture behind each of our creations. So yeah, just trying to be authentic over here, and hopefully you guys will appreciate that. And maybe if you have some ideas on what I could have done better in this particular project, please drop those in the comments box below and tell me if I can do anything to improve this composition, and I'd be happy to reattempt it and retry this. So yeah, while I was rambling on over there, as you can see, I also added some blue dots and blue circles, again just to create more bubbles in the project, and also because I wanted to build some contrast. And that was pretty much the end of the project. So yeah, I'm happy that I stuck with these two tangles for today's project. I quite like the combination of them together, just that, as I mentioned, I have to figure out better ways of incorporating the colors over here. And if you want me to recreate this composition in a different color palette, or if you have ideas on what I can do better, please drop them in the comments box below. Also, if you have ideas on how I can use these tangles in combination with other tangles, or if you have suggestions for more tangle combinations that I should try in the series, then put those also in the comments box below. So yeah, look at that gold shining through, looking very beautiful. And yeah, that was today's project, and I really hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you want to see me create more such compositions, and if you want to follow along for my hits, misses, mistakes, good times, bad times, then please do subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys very, very soon.